Welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan, and Game Week 21 has come to a close. I'm looking through the chat right now, guys. It seems like a lot of you guys did reasonably well. Fair enough, guys. Fair enough to all of you. 78 points I'm ending on, which means my rank has increased slightly. The game has literally only just finished as we start the stream here, so I'm going to have to just upgrade my rank just a few places. A small green arrow for me, but another green arrow, which is great. We're on a bit of a streak here. We're on a bit of a roll. I'd say anyone who's kind of got 75 points or more, I'd say you probably had a okay, acceptable game week. And considering this wasn't really a game week we were expecting to gain or lose very much on, I think it's, it's okay. Okay, I remember I was saying, last week in the streams, we were kind of saying, what would you be happy with? 60 points, 70 points? You'd be very lucky to get 70 points because it didn't look like there was going to be a lot of points available. But, of course, the main man, Erling Haaland, is pretty much made up 50% of most of our scores. Absolutely insanity, again, is particularly if you captained him. If you didn't captain him, maybe a little bit of an L. But for everyone else, I think we can be pretty pleased. For my score, I would say that 78 points is probably about average for like an active player. I would say maybe slightly above average. For me, the problems were that all my differentials didn't pay off, apart from Kepa. But Ake 1 point, Dunk 1 point, Tony 1 point, and these are kind of the players that kind of the least owned players, which is just kind of furthering this kind of proof that differentials this year don't really necessarily work, and therefore maybe these template picks are just super strong right now. And that's kind of true. The template is very strong. Haaland, the top scoring player of the week, is also like 85% owned and 95% captained. Crazy stuff, I know, absolutely crazy stuff. But yeah, that's me. But I did, guys, want to do a stream today. We haven't done a strategy stream in a little while, and I know the next deadline is a couple of weeks away. It's a little while away, but I did want to come on here and kind of start talking about things now, because I know a lot of minds are racing, a lot of different thoughts are going through people's heads. I know everyone is very excited for Game Week 22 and 23, 2 double game weeks back to back, and then a blank Game Week 25 as well, which is also going to be of consequence to us FPL managers. So I know there's a lot of things going around in everyone's brains, and I thought let's try and talk about it. So the first thing I want to say, or the first thing of substance I want to say in this stream is, please stop making transfers. For heaven's sake, please stop making transfers. This is not good. We have got so much time until the next FPL deadline. This is not a deadline that is happening this weekend. It is the following weekend after that. If we go on pick team here, the next game week deadline is Friday, the 3rd of February at 6:30 UK time. That is almost 2 weeks away. There will be no more FPL for the remainder of January and a little bit beyond as well. So it's we've got a while, and so much can happen during this period, and even more can happen when you consider how many games have got to be squeezed in between now and the next deadline. So first of all, guys, I know everyone is talking about Manchester United players right now because of this double game week, or should I say a little bit more specifically, the interim double game week, the placeholder double game week, because this double game week is not guaranteed. It's just like that Spurs Man City one. It's likely to happen, but it's not 100% guaranteed. So basically, Leeds and Man United, this basically is kind of entirely dependent on whether or not they require a replay. Let's put it that way. Require a replay for their next FA Cup game. So as long as they win or lose, both Manchester United and Leeds United both have to either win or lose their game. No draws allowed in their FA Cup games, and this double game week will go ahead. We don't know what the outcome of that is going to be. We will find out the outcome pretty soon. But yeah, just to give you an example, guys, these are the fixtures for Manchester United, and I appreciate it's a little bit cut off on the left-hand side, but that's just how my screen is kind of set up at the moment. I can't be bothered to move things around just for this one particular page. Maybe if I click X here, things will move across. Can things move across? Can I drag them across? Probably not. All right, but you get the idea. So we've got, guys, some fixtures. Before the next Manchester United Premier League game against Crystal Palace on Saturday the 4th of February, we have got 3 games. Manchester United play 3 entire games before they play their next Premier League game. That is, you may say that even like the 10 days or however long it is, 11 days before the next match, you may say, oh, that's not such a long time. But considering there are 3 games in there, that's kind of a long time. That's 3 opportunities for your players to get injured. That's 3 opportunities for, tactics to change slightly, or players to fall in and out of favour, or players to get suspended, or many, many other things that can happen. Not a lot of time, but a lot of time in amount of games. This is a lot. 3 games is a lot. Is a long time in football. It's a long time in football. So basically, we need to hold our horses a little bit, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, for example, you can be dead certain on getting a certain player in 3 games' time. They may have played 90 minutes in each of those 3 games and be absolutely exhausted by the time the double game week comes around. We may not even get a double game week. That is something that could possibly happen. We could have, a situation where a player falls really badly out of form. You might be saying right now, I really want to get Bruno Fernandes in my team, but what if he drops 3 absolute stinkers in the next 3 games, plays 90 minutes in all of those games as well, and kind of, maybe gets hooked off at half-time in the 3rd game, and you kind of think at that point, is he actually the player I want to go for moving forward? I'm not saying that's likely to happen, but it's something that's very much a possibility, and something I do think we need to consider. So there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot going on in those games. We'll probably find out a lot. There will be players returning from injury as well. I know a lot of people are talking about right now about buying Wan-Bissaka in, for example. He's only 4.3 million, I believe. What if Dalot is back? What if we see Dalot come back in, for that Reading game, for example, and then plays again against Forest? Are we then going to be kind of expecting that maybe Dalot is the new main guy, or the return of the main guy, I guess, at right back? Wait, be patient. So much can happen in that time. Same kind of situation for any player, really. There is going to be games in between. There's a lot of teams playing in the FA Cup still, playing in the League Cup as well, to be fair. So lots can happen between now and the actual deadline. So first of all, just try and be as patient as you can, I guess. This FA Cup 4th round game, this is the one where we need Manchester United to win or lose, but not draw, in order to get that double game week. Same with Leeds. I've got Leeds fixtures here. Leeds play TBD in the FA Cup, so we don't know. But yeah, that's basically the situation, guys. Or more will be revealed over the next kind of week or so. Just try and be a little patient. Next thing I want to talk about, and I will take questions at the end. Well, I say I take questions. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about at the end. But next up, I do just want to talk about triple captaining. So first of all, yes, I do think Game Week 22 is a triple captain opportunity. I really do think it is a triple captain opportunity. And currently, I have got my captain's armband on Rashford, and I am really strongly considering playing that triple captain chip, getting that on, turning that captain's icon to the white colour. I'm really, really thinking about it. And let me tell you why. So, and I did tweet this out earlier as well, but I will do it again for the benefit of those of you guys who just watch the YouTube stuff. But in Game Week 22, Rashford is predicted to score 14.3 points. Now, we're on the Fantasy Football Hub points prediction tool here. And you can see that 14.3 points is so high in terms of a prediction, so abnormally high, should I say, that is actually kind of cut off, the half of the number is cut off on this kind of bit of the diagram here, because it's just so high. We're not used to seeing numbers quite that high on this kind of graph. But yeah, 14.3 predicted points. That is really, really high. We do think that Rashford will be prioritised in the Premier League games. I know some people are saying, Man United play a lot of games? Is he going to get rested in the Premier League? I think it's far more likely that he gets rested in some of the other games. For example, if Manchester United do really well in the opening semi-final game, then, maybe Rashford is on the bench for the second one, or maybe they feel like they can bench him for the first one, and then if things go terribly wrong, then they bring him on for the second one. Same kind of thing with the FA Cup. Does he even play in the FA Cup? Does he even start in the FA Cup? Not necessarily. I think Manchester United could rotate their team, but it's more likely to be in the cup games than it is in the Premier League. So going back to our predicted points, Rashford, 14.3 predicted points in game week 22. Now, this is kind of done based on their underlying numbers from previous games, the defensive records of the teams that they are facing, whether it's a home or an away game. We know for a fact that both of these games are going to be home games, assuming this double game week does go ahead. If we go now to teams per appearance from game week 17 onwards, so since the break, and then go expected goals conceded per game, scroll right to the bottom here, we see Leeds and Crystal Palace as two of the weakest defences since the break. So there we go. Count Silo says, Dan, it's not like United have a lot of rotation options. Are you kidding? They have so many rotation options. Well, I say so many. They do have a decent amount. Martial will probably be back by the end of this run. They've got Elanga. They've got Garnacho. They've got... is Sancho nearly back? Yes, he is nearly back as well. They've got Anthony there. They've got now, obviously, Weghorst now playing up front as well. There is options. I wouldn't worry about that too much. Like, even if, one player is rotated per game, it still will happen, But yes, as I keep saying, too early to make transfers. There will be rotation. We'll find out more information, and information is power, and it's key. But anyway, back to this. So Rashford, very high predicted points, two really nice fixtures against two of the weakest defences since the break. In fact, the second and third worst defences since the return of Premier League football. These are really, really good fixtures. Really, really good fixtures. So even if you don't think Rashford or whoever else is as good as the likes of Erling Haaland or Harry Kane or whoever, and you'd rather triple captain one of those, the fact is we've got two really nice home fixtures, and we know what Rashford is like at home. His home record is very good indeed, so I think that is an important factor to consider. Other players that are predicted high are, I think I probably don't need to tell you this, guys, but I will anyway. The top three players you want to be looking at for double game week 22 are Rashford, Fernandes, and Shaw. Those three. After that, Anthony is also predicted kind of high points, but I think he is one of more of those players who is kind of, there's a possibility of him being rotated in those games. I think he is a slight more rotation risk than some of his teammates. You've got the likes of De Gea and Eriksen here, fairly highly predicted as well, but I think I would prefer to go for Rodrigo over the likes of someone like Eriksen, I think, to be honest, just because he plays in a slightly more advanced position, but Eriksen is predicted reasonably high points as well. Martinez for a 4.5 defender is not the worst shout in the world, and then after that, we've got Erling Haaland in a single game week, which is pretty good. Which is pretty good. So yes, this is your Manchester United players. Now, the reason why I'm saying that Rashford is a good option for a triple captain is because the other option. Well, I say the other option. Obviously, there is going to be more double game weeks in the future, but I think personally, and I'm sure, when you kind of, I'm sure there was other content creators hyping up their kind of game week 20 double game week triple captain, and I kind of agree with the same sentiment, is that I would rather use it kind of in this run of double game weeks rather than the later on double game weeks, because the later on double game weeks are going to be more primed to use your wild card, to use your bench boost, and to use your free hits. So there will be more double game weeks down the line, but I feel like they're going to be more kind of suitable to the other chips. Whereas a triple captain, you can use it kind of flexibly. You don't need to wait for the perfect game week necessarily, but you just need to find one team with one good player with two really good fixtures. And that's exactly what we have here. So Rashford, Leeds and Crystal Palace, good fixtures, high predicted points. If we go to game week 23, which is kind of your other... if you didn't use your triple captain in 20, you're probably right now looking at 22 or 23, probably the favoured ones. I know there are other options, but these are probably the two favoured options. So 22 we just spoke about. 23, we have got Erling Haaland here. And this is his predicted points for game week 23, and it's 12.3. So, in terms of predicted points, it's actually two less predicted points than Rashford. So, according to this particular model, this artificial intelligence model, there are many other, models that use data to predict points. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily the right one. If you look at enough different models, you'll probably get slightly different results. But on this particular model, and this is one that I do trust to a degree, you have to use it within context. No artificial intelligence or robots can get things 100% right. You have to use your brain to try and interpret the information that is given you, take it, use it within context, etc., etc. But as a prediction, Erling Haaland is predicted 2 less points than Rashford in 23 versus 22, with 12.3 predicted points. And the big part of that is that Arsenal away fixture. Going back to the defences, and I will keep agreeing with you guys that Haaland is obviously a better FPL pick than Rashford. Haaland is going to score you more FPL points than Rashford. That is true. But in terms of the fixtures, we've got here an Arsenal side who actually have kind of dropped down a little bit. They've dropped down a little bit defensively since the break. And that's mainly due to the Brighton game, the Spurs game, and to a degree, the Manchester United game as well. But mostly the Brighton and the Spurs game. In both of those games, Arsenal did concede a fair amount of chances in both of those games. Maybe that's because they're playing against good attacks. So maybe that's obscuring the data a little bit. But nevertheless, Arsenal are still one of the stronger defences in the Premier League. And we've also seen Aston Villa, maybe a slight resurgence from them. Obviously a clean sheet in game week 21 as well. Are Aston Villa an improving defence? I don't want to say for sure. They're certainly not one of the stronger defences in the Premier League. But they're not Crystal Palace and Leeds. They're not dead bottom like, these kind of teams. So we've got 2 more difficult fixtures for Haaland in 23 compared to Rashford in 22. Now, let's go next to some of the numbers, some of the stats since the return, really. We're going to go again let's go per start. I think that's fairer. Expected points, no surprise here to see, actually let's hide low minutes players as well. No surprise here to see Darwin Nunez at the top, although he can never capitalise on those points, can he? Then we got Haaland, Trippier, Nketiah, Schär, and then Rashford. So Rashford is still, you would say, that's top 6 for predicted points per start since the break. Rashford is top 6. So he is very good. Very, very good. But yeah, equally, Haaland is a little bit higher than that. 6.28 expected points per game compared to Haaland's 7.72. So Haaland is higher in that regard. Haaland is still the better pick. But the fixtures. So this really is going to be up to you. And I don't want to say that one answer is correct, the other answer is incorrect. All I'm going to say is that both of them are options. Both of them are options. Rashford in 22 is a good option. Haaland in 23 is also a good option. And I would probably choose one of them. That's right now, if you ask me right now, when am I going to be using my triple captainship? It's going to be one of those game weeks. I'm thinking right now of going for the triple captain Rashford in 22 and playing for, two big good fixtures with a very high upside. And I do think Rashford does have the higher upside of the 2 players. I think Haaland is kind of more reliable, perhaps. Rashford is a player in very, very good form. And he's obviously a midfielder, so he scores more points, extra points per goal he scores. And he's playing in fixtures where you can see 3-0s happening, 4-0s potentially happening. You can see the potential for high scores happening. Now, obviously, Manchester City do have that possibility as well. But the differences with Manchester City is they have a possibility for a high score against Aston Villa. Yes, fair enough. But is that going to be Haaland? Is there going to be Mahrez involved? At that point, is Haaland going to be a player who is rested or rotated potentially? I would say probably not, but is he going to have his minutes reduced maybe? Is he going to be coming off at, as we kind of saw in game week 21, right? Sometimes we do see Haaland come off a little bit earlier on in the games there as well. Probably not going to happen against Arsenal, but certainly against Aston Villa. Is he going to get limited minutes in the game that we really want him for? Potentially. And Arsenal, I cannot see Manchester City scoring too many goals against Arsenal. I can't really see it happening. 2, I think, is kind of the maximum that's really going to happen there. But it's looking at the form of both teams, it's likely to be less than that. So Haaland is kind of, in a way, a single game week with an extra bit of a chance, right? It's kind of like a 1.5 game week, if that makes sense. Because when you're playing a team in the form that Arsenal are in, can you really call it a true double game week? Maybe not. You can say the similar thing about Leeds going into double game week 22, right? Is it really a double game week when one of those teams is against an in-form Manchester United team? And I know some of you guys will probably want to bash on Manchester United because they lost to Arsenal, but they played a very good game. That was 2 very good teams coming head-to-head there. Someone was going to come away disappointed in that game. Arguably, if it was a draw, both teams would have come away disappointed as well. Cheers to the Blackcurrant Squash Nation. But my point is, the fixtures are so much better for Rashford. But, again, nothing's locked in yet because we're so far away from the game week 22 deadline. But Rashford is looking good. Rashford is looking good. Right, here is the final thing I absolutely 100% wanted to talk about in this stream, and then we'll talk about whatever you guys want to. So if you've got any questions, get them locked and loaded to put in the chat. But the final thing I wanted to talk about, and this is because it's been winding me up to no end, is people saying I'm going to captain, trying to convince me in many ways that Fernandes is actually the player to captain in Game Week 22, not Rashford. It's Bruno. I can see it in the chat right now. I don't even need to look far up the chat. People are saying, what about Bruno Fernandes? What about Bruno Fernandes? What about our good friend Fernandes? Well, I don't know what you want me to say to you. If you've got Rashford, I don't see why you would, captain or triple captain Fernandes ahead of him. I don't see there being a single reason. If we look through, they both play for the same team to start you off. They've had the same fixtures. But if you look at the numbers here, in terms of... In fact, let's just go... Actually, let's not go total because Fernandes has played one more game than Rashford since 17, hasn't he? But yeah, okay. But, one more start. So, Rashford is taking one more shot per game than him. More than double shots on target. Double shots in the box per game. In terms of big chances, that's 6 times the amount of big chances per game. Big scoring chances per game. 3 times the amount of XG per game. Even key passes don't get you as many points, but I guess we should consider that as well. Fernandes is creating more, but he's 0.5 expected assists compared to Rashford's 0.2. No wait, that's actual assists. Okay, so yeah, Fernandes actually quite a lot better on expected assists, really, but that's kind of irrelevant. If you add the kind of expected goal involvements together, then they're about even, and Rashford, any midfielder gets more points for goals scored. So we're seeing Rashford is far more direct, taking far more shots on. We know you get more points for goals than assists. Midfielders do not, they don't become FPL royalty by getting assists. You may say that's a shame because maybe you say midfielders should be getting assists and that's what makes them great players. Fine, but they don't. In FPL, the midfielders who score goals. Oscar H, thank you for the super chat. Which will I play, March or Tony? We got 2 weeks. I wouldn't worry about locking in a decision right now, my friend. We have got 2 weeks. I guess Tony. Anyway, but you don't need to worry about that quite yet. But yes, Rashford has just got such better numbers. You've got better numbers, more chances to actually score you FPL points than Fernandes. And we've seen that. We've seen that Rashford, since the break, pretty much all season, has been a better FPL pick than Bruno Fernandes. He's scoring more points. And the thing that people, because I've had this conversation on Twitter already, and people say, yeah, I understand Rashford is the better player, and I think Rashford is going to score more points. But if I captain Bruno Fernandes, he's a differential, and that's kind of true, because Fernandes is only 6.6% owned. That's super, super low. It really is kind of low. So let's get up a a notes page. It is time. It's time to bring up a notes page. Bear with me 1 second, guys. I probably should have prepared this earlier because I knew I was going to do this. Let's close you down. Right. So, we've got a plain old notes page. Let's boost up the text size so you can all see very clearly. So, if you have in your team Rashford, Bruno, and Shaw, these are your 3 Manchester United players. So let's call this Manager A. And I'm going to try and show you guys where you're going wrong on the logic that Bruno is a better captain because he's a differential. Let's say Manager B doesn't have Bruno because Bruno is a differential. Remember, Bruno's a differential. So Manager A has got the differential player. And let's think about some points. Who's going to get some more points? So Rashford, we think he's going to get 14 points this game week. Bruno's going to get 10 points this game week. And Shaw is going to get, 9 points? That seems pretty generous. Rashford, the same there. Shaw, same here. But De Bruyne has got a measly 3 points. A measly 3 points. So, Manager A has decided to triple captain Bruno Fernandes. So we've got 30 points. Amazing. Manager B has decided to triple captain Rashford. So now I've got to do some maths. 28, 38, 42. 42 points on the triple captain. Have I worked that out right? I hope I've worked that out right. Otherwise I'm going to look very foolish. Yeah, so Rashford, 42 points. The total here is 45 plus 9 equals 54. And the total here, let's just move it down a little bit, is 44 plus 9, 53. There we go. Is that right? Yeah, it's right. So, yes, you've got lovely differential points on Bruno Fernandes, but you still got less points than the person who triple captained Rashford. You still got less points. And I know you say, okay, well, actually, no, I think it's going to be a little bit closer. So what did we say? We said Bruno 10 points, and we said Rashford 14 points, right? So even if it's a little bit closer, Bruno scores 13 points. Triple captain that, 36. Triple captain on 14 is, it's still 42. That's not changed. And now the totals change a little bit. I've got to work this maths out again. This is 59, right? And this one is still 54. No, yes, still 54. Yes. Okay, so now this Manager A has scored 59 points. And this player A, is saying, amazing, I got the differential triple captain and scored more points. But if you just captained Rashford, you'd have more points. You'd have many more points. You'd have 42. You'd have 42 points here. You'd still have the 13 there. And your score would now be upgraded to a phenomenal 55, 64. Is that right? 64, yes, that is correct. It was 39. Oh, it's not 36, it's 39. Anyway. All right, I messed up one thing. I apologize, chat. But my point is, if you just captain Rashford, it doesn't matter if 1% owned people have Bruno Fernandes and you triple captain him. It doesn't matter. Because all you need to do is triple captain the player who scores the most points. Even if you're still outscoring Manager B. You still get more points by triple captaining. Now, the only way, I know people get so excited about differentials. The only way differentials ever work is if they outscore the template players. In this scenario, for our triple captain 22 conundrum, or captain, or even if you're just using your regular captain, the only way a differential works if it outscores the template player. The template player is Rashford. He's the template captain. Is Bruno Fernandes going to outscore Rashford? Well, what we've seen over the last few game weeks suggests no. No, that's not going to happen. If it does happen, fine. Sometimes strange things happen in football. You can't always predict the results, right? But FPL is a game, it's a business of trying to make predictions as accurately as you can. And the previous data that we've seen suggests that Rashford is going to outscore Bruno. So no matter how differential Bruno is as a captain, it doesn't matter. You will always score more points by going for Rashford. And I know people say, and this really winds me up, it's winding me up because on Twitter particularly, people are going crazy about differentials and how differentials work and effective ownership. It doesn't really matter. If you gain a huge amount of points from a differential Bruno, amazing. Amazing. That is great. But even if that means that you have sacrificed, and whether that's making a transfer or it's using a captaincy, if you've sacrificed a better option, you've gained nothing. A differential only works if it beats the template pick. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. It's same situation where people say, and they say it every week, oh, I'm gonna go for Harry Kane. I think, as my captain this week, I think he's going to score. I think he can score around the same amount of points as Haaland. Okay, fine. But if you captain Kane and he scores the exact amount of points as Haaland, you've gained nothing because you've lost all the captaincy on Haaland points. The differentials don't just shoot you up rank wherever you get them, because when you are sacrificing the good players, the template players who are regularly scoring points, it doesn't work. But anyway, that's kind of all I'm saying here. Just like, there's no reason to captain Bruno Fernandes. I say there's no reason. There's no logical and sensible reason to captain Rashford or triple captain, to captain Bruno or triple captain Bruno over Rashford. There's nothing. Other than just being different because you like to be different. That's not using an FPL brain. That's just trying to have some fun with it, which is fine. Having fun with it is absolutely fine. But you can only go so far in FPL by just having fun, I guess, is the point here. But anyway, okay, right. I think that's enough of the talk that I feel that I wanted to get out the way in this stream. We're going to go for another, 5-10 minutes. If you've got any things you want to talk about in particular, do let me know in the chat. And whilst you're getting your chats in, I did just want to kind of show you some ideas of what I'm thinking about doing with my team. So just to show you what I'm doing with my team. So this is my current team for Game Week 22. You can see on screen. It's not my current team. In fact, I should probably refresh and show you what my actual current team is, which is not this, because I already made the changes. But anyway, let's just import my team here. So this is my actual current team, like in real life. I've got 2 free transfers, and I have 2 players that I really want to get in. Ødegaard, I feel like I have to get into my team at some point, and Bruno Fernandes, I think, is just a fantastic player for the double game week. So I can actually do this. I wanted to do Almiron. Well, I've wanted to do Almiron to Ødegaard for weeks, but can't afford to do it. The only way I'm going to be able to afford that is if I downgrade another player. So De Bruyne down to Bruno Fernandes. So using my 2 free transfers, I get Ødegaard in my team finally up against Everton. Happy days. And I've got Bruno Fernandes in there as well. Ødegaard also ready for that double game week 22. So that gives me 3 double game week players. I would be happy with 3. I'd be pretty happy with 3 Manchester United players for that game. I'm not too bothered about Leeds players. Like I say, I think it's it's more like 1.5. It's like a 1.5 game week rather than a double game week really. And Leeds players, and not particularly players I want to keep for the long term either. So, yeah, although I think they're okay and there's options to go for them, this really is very close to my ideal midfield there. So, that would take me to game week 23. And in game week 23, I want De Bruyne back. Luckily, my team is in a decent position, so I can do the flip-flap, but I need to make a downgrade somewhere. So, there will be a game week 20. Well, according to this particular strategy that I've come up with, there will be a -4 taken. So, Tony will be going down to Nketiah. Fernandes will be going up to De Bruyne. Fantastic. So this is really good stuff here. We've got now, if we bring on Nathan Ake especially, we will have triple City, triple Arsenal. So we'll be maximised, and then we'll throw the captain's armband on Haaland, obviously. Let's just put vice-captain on De Bruyne. And there, with a -4, we will have our De Bruyne back, and we will also have Nketiah ready for double 23. -4. But, I think a fairly decent -4. That takes us to game week 24. I haven't really decided what I would be doing for game week 24, but I've kind of had a rough think that far ahead. But I did just want to make a note on game week 25 as well, because with this particular team that I've kind of crafted here, what it will do is ensure that we do not really have that many blanking players. So the blanking players in this team, or players who are likely to blank in game week 25 from this particular team, my particular team, would be Trippier, Rashford, Shaw, and Lewis Dunk. So I would probably, at this point, I would have 2 transfers. I'll remove Lewis Dunk and find some other defender to put in. Who has a good fixture that week? I don't know, like Aston Villa have a pretty good fixture that week. They play against Everton. So for example, maybe I throw in Tyrone Mings in there. Tyrone Mings comes in there, and we've got a full team. We've got a full 11 in blank game week 25, and I get to keep Trippier, Rashford, and Shaw for future game weeks as well. So that'll be pretty nice. So yeah, that's a kind of a rough plan I'm thinking of at the moment that we could potentially go for, and it involves a double switch in 22 to maximise my Man United players. That will bring me to game week 23. Well, I have to take a -4, but then I get triple City and triple Arsenal in 23. And then by the time we get to 25, I will have enough. I'll have more than enough transfers to ensure that I have 11 men on the pitch in blank game week 25. No free hit needed. Happy days. Happy days. Do you worry about not covering Arsenal's defence, Dan? Not massively. I mean, it would be nice to have a Arsenal defender, but if we go to Arsenal players, for example, and look at the highest predicted points since the break, we're not seeing Arsenal defenders up here. Nketiah, expected points 6.52, Saka 4.78, Martinelli 4.62, Erdegaard 4.59. So yeah, you do have to go a little bit lower before you do get to the defenders here, who have been a little bit lower on expected points, because Arsenal, like I said, have dropped a little bit defensively. Maybe that's due to the fixtures, to be fair, but the forwards, the attackers are doing very well right now, and I think in a way that's a nice differential to have like that investment in the attack, when most other people will be going for defenders. And let's be honest, are Arsenal going to keep a clean sheet against Manchester City in that double? Maybe, not sure. So yeah, I don't think you have to have an Arsenal defender. I think Ben White, although I still think he is a good pick, is he emerging as a slight rotation risk? I thought Tomiyasu would play quite well when he came on at half-time. But I do imagine that Ben White was only substituted off because he was on a yellow card there against Manchester United. But I was impressed with Tomiyasu when he came on. And he is a good player. So I do wonder if, a slightly more congested fixture schedule, could White be rotated where there is a very clear and obvious kind of understudy there? We've seen White be substituted off slightly earlier in games as well. Let's have a look here. But yeah, I remember recently, he came off in the 59th minute a couple of weeks ago. Not the first time we've seen this kind of thing happen. So yeah, 45 minutes there, 75 there, 59 there. So yeah, since the break, we have seen 3 times that Ben White has been substituted off before the end of the game, in 2 occasions fairly early as well. So, is there a slight rotation risk there? Yes. Would I sell Ben White? Absolutely not. But it is certainly something that puts me off buying him. It's particularly as I do kind of like the idea of going for this slightly differential triple Arsenal attack instead, which is quite nice. But yeah, that's kind of a plan I'm kind of thinking of, maybe, potentially. Anyway, let's have a look in the chat, see what you guys are saying. What rank are you aiming for? I don't know. A top 100k would be a huge achievement given my start of the season. We are heading in the right direction. And I feel like I've got all my chips left and a solid plan for the upcoming double game week. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I can, make more progress towards that. What to do with Martial and Dallo? I mean, wait. We've got 3 Manchester United games. Both of those players could be back to full fitness by the time game week 22 rolls around. Jamie already answered you about the Arsenal defence thing. Cam says it is worth holding Salah this week. Already got triple United. Potentially Liverpool. Who do you play? Remind myself. Wolves. It's not a bad fixture, but there's no really such thing as a good fixture for Liverpool at the moment. It depends. I think, if you don't have an Ødegaard, if you don't have Saka, for example, I would make the Salah to one of those. I'd make that switch. But, again, would not make early transfers. Wait, be patient, see what happens over the cup games before going for anything like that. Is 84 points with a -4 good? Yes, it is, and I think you already know that, Lucas. Julie says, should I transfer out Mahrez for Ødegaard? Maybe. Yeah, it's not the worst shout in the world. I don't think you have to do that, though, necessarily. Or getting Nonto for Mitro and Ødegaard for Almiron. That is another option. Yeah, I think the second option, is possibly the way I would go, to be fair. Then you get to keep Mahrez for double game week 23. Ayad says, Mitoma's a nice differential this game week. Yes. We've been hyping him up all of last week, weren't we, Mitoma? So, yeah, he's a really good player. El Costa says, good replacement for Shaw. I mean, what do you mean a good replacement for Shaw? Have you gone crazy? There is no keep Shaw, but by all accounts. I'm thinking of Andrea. Oh, that's a long one. I'm not going to read two long ones because they're always so specific to one person. Can Southampton versus Brentford be put in game week 25? That's a good question. Depends. It depends on the results because Brentford. Let's have a look. Brentford are already. So game week 25 would be like. It's here, right? 26th of February. That game could be called off anyway. So if Manchester United go through to the League Cup final, then that would move this particular fixture, but Brentford would still be free. So, I mean, I guess potentially what's Southampton's situation in that game week? Have they already got a fixture for that game week? Maybe I should have a look here instead. Have Southampton already got a game week 25 fixture? Yes, against Leeds. Okay, so the way that would have to happen is if... Right... League Cup fixtures. So, we would need Newcastle to beat Southampton. And then would it be possible then anyway? No, because Leeds, that Leeds fixture is still going to go ahead. It could happen in the midweek slot. We're getting a little bit too complicated. I'd need to make up or have a look at some kind of graph or have a calendar in front of me to work that one out, I'm afraid. Unless someone has already got a calendar of all fixtures somewhere that I can have a look at, then I can't really work it out off the top of my head. Well, not in like 2 minutes anyway. And yeah, I'm sure I don't want to bore people too much. Would you consider Fernandes to Mahrez? Fernandes to Mahrez? Oh, hang on. Craig, I'm not even sure what this means. Would you consider Fernandes to Mahrez to Amendable Greenwood to Nketiah for a -4? I'm not really sure what that means. I'm sorry. Zwifty says Bruno got 19. 38 with captain. Oh, yeah, we've done that now. Where else are we? I've got Rico Lewis as my third Man City. Do I sell or keep? Ooh, difficult to say. I mean, he's not a priority sell, I'd put it that way. Ødegaard in this week or hold off for a little longer. You don't have any Arsenal attackers. I would make sure you do get Ødegaard. Ødegaard or Fernandes. This week is definitely Fernandes. Nketiah or White as third Arsenal player. I prefer Nketiah at this point. Steve, thank you for the compliments. Sahil says short or Dalot if Dalot is fit. Still go for... Actually, Dalot is a little bit cheaper now, isn't he? I would still go for Luke Shaw purely because... Wan-Bissaka has been playing quite well, and because Wan-Bissaka has been playing so well, I do think that does potentially keep Dalot out of the team to a degree, at least kind of reduces Dalot's game time there. What do we think of Rico Lewis? I mean, I wouldn't be buying him. Don't buy, don't sell, probably. What about double United defence? Martinez instead of Bruno and keep KDB, save a hit. If that's something you want to do, that's absolutely fine. Manchester United have been a reasonably good defence, so I can definitely see clean sheets coming. But there is much higher upside of going for Bruno Fernandes there, so there's a much larger potential for high points. Martinez is not going to score headers every week. Let's nip that one in the bud. To be fair, Shaw and Fernandes in before price changes, or we'll have to do Varane and Fernandes later. I really don't like the idea of going for early transfers this week. I really don't, particularly for Man United players. Like I say, they play 3 games before their next Premier League game. That is a lot of games. So I would not be happy with making early transfers. But if this is the only way of getting Shaw and Fernandes in, and you're not going to be able to do that if the prices change, then maybe you do have to do it. A frustrating one for sure. How am I going to afford to get KDB back? By downgrading Tony to Nketiah. Can I keep Mitro? You can if you want. Are you going to keep Almiron? No, I'm not. Ødegaard or Fernandes for long term. For long-term, Ødegaard, but Fernandes, you can have Fernandes short-term and Ødegaard in long-term. You can even buy Fernandes this week and move into Ødegaard, excuse me, for the following week. That is an option. You don't have to just have one of them. Even that move might even be worth the -4 because you get back-to-back double game weeks. So, even using the -4 to make that luxury transfer could very well be worth it. When are you thinking of playing your other chips? Aside from the triple captain, which I think I'm going to play in 22, we are talking about game week 29 onwards. Start Kane or Mitoma? Always start Kane. Will you field 11 players in game week 25? I will, but yeah, I think 10 is also okay. Is Bruno a must-have? I don't think he's a must-have, but he's pretty close. I would say Rashford and Shaw are must-haves, but Bruno is kind of like the next player on the list, if that makes sense. So close to must-have, but not quite. He's certainly a player that you're going to want to have in your team. Is Weghorst an option? I don't think so. I think Martial will be back before long, and when Martial is fit, he is going to be first choice. Almiron to Rodrigo. Don't mind that one. How many points? 78 for me this week. Good, not great. Good, not great. Saka, Nonto, Ødegaard this game week. I mean, look, if you guys really want to go for Nonto, then fine. I'm not... those of you guys who are here on... the deadline stream last week will know that I'm not as much of a fan of Nonto as many other people are. But I think one of the main reasons I didn't like going for Nonto in 22 and why I was trying to, in 21, sorry, and advising people not to go for Nonto in 21 is because Brentford are just a decent defence at the moment. Here we go. There's Brentford on screen right now. They are the 6th best defence in the Premier League since the break. So, yeah, didn't like that for Leeds. Didn't like that for Nonto. So, yeah. But now it's a double game week. If you kind of like the look of Leeds' fixtures long-term, or you feel like you can bench Nonto sometimes, then I think that's fine. He's cheap enough that you can bench him. And if you're not too worried about, that third forward slot, I would say the only thing is that maybe you lock yourself out of getting Nketiah. But if you're not bothered about getting Eddie Nketiah, then, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. But, look, it's a double game week against Manchester United away. So remember, that is not like a full fixture. Don't automatically expect that Nonto is going to score in that game or even get an assist. I don't know if that necessarily will happen. But an interesting note is Nottingham Forest have actually been an improved defence. So you can see here, since the break, Nottingham Forest are kind of, in terms of expected goals conceded, they are around the same level as Brentford, Arsenal, West Ham. And maybe that's not saying as much, but, Nottingham Forest have improved since the break. They really have improved. So, if I would say And I might change my mind by the time deadline comes along. But right this very second, I would say, what should we throw on screen? Let's just throw predicted points on. I would say that I would buy Nonto if it means you are freeing up money to make another move that you really want to make. If you're kind of just doing it because you think Nonto is an amazing pick and you just want him specifically, then maybe not. But if you're freeing up money and you can do some nice moves elsewhere by downgrading one of your forwards to Nonto, in that case, like it, love it. Do prefer Nketiah as a forward, but it's not the worst player to own in a double game week. There's no such thing. If you pick a nailed-on player in a double game week, you're looking at 4 points minimum, really. So you can't really say that's a bad pick necessarily. But I don't love it. Don't love Rodrigo either. Don't love. I am wondering if Bamford is going to eat into some of those minutes even more than he has done already. We know Rodrigo is famously a player who doesn't play 90 minutes when Bamford's in town. And we saw that last game. We've seen that kind of previously in the season when Bamford was been available as well. We've seen Rodrigo play some all manner of low minutes, often one-pointers as well, which can be disappointing, can't it? But yeah, 2 reasonably difficult fixtures. Nottingham Forest on paper looks good, but it's an away fixture. I believe it's an away fixture, isn't it? Let's double check that. It's an away fixture. And they have been an improved team. And one more note on that. I forgot to even mention Somerville. What happens when Somerville comes back? When he returns to fitness, and remember, we've got a long time till game week 22 kicks off. Is Somerville going to be eating into Nonto's points? Or, minutes? Surely. Don't know. Councilor says, Dan, would you prefer Ødegaard and Nonto or Nketiah and Bailey? That's a good question. I think the fact that Nonto has that double game week helps his case. Although, to be fair, Aston Villa have some reasonably nice fixtures. Oh no. No. I'm thinking of 25 onwards because they've certainly got a Man City and Arsenal here. So, yeah, Bailey would be kind of locked on your bench, I imagine, right? Yeah. I prefer Ødegaard and Nketiah, but I guess Ødegaard and Nonto. I guess. That's a tough question. Does Triple Captain come back after you've used it, or is it a one-time thing? All chips are one-time thing, other than the wild card, in which you get 1 to use in the first half of the season and 1 to use in the second half of the season. Still technically a one-time thing. Each of them are one-time things because they're different chips, because one can only be used in first half, the other can only be used in the second half. All chips are one-time things. You can't just play them endlessly. Can you imagine if you could just play a Triple Captain every week? That would be the dream, right? That would be the dream. But I think, guys, we are going to wrap things up. Just so this is kind of watchable as a replay. It's almost an hour already. Anyone who's watching this stream as a replay, by the way, let me know in the comments section, because fair play to you guys for sitting through an hour of FPL, mate. That is brave. That is brave. I can see a few of you guys also asking different questions. I did answer a lot of the questions that you're talking about right now earlier on in the stream. In fact, we spoke about some really interesting topics at great length in the first half of the stream. So do feel free to go back and check that out. On the replay particularly. But yeah, we're going to leave that for today, guys. If you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the stream before you disappear, that would be massively appreciated. It really does help out the channel so much. So yeah, thank you guys who do continue to like the streams as well. If you haven't subscribed already, would massively appreciate that as well. We're trying to get to, I don't know, 100. I would be happy with if we get to 170,000 subscribers by the end of the season. I would be pretty happy with that. I know I've got 175k on screen, but I'll be happy with 170. But yeah, let's leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We will be doing videos this week, but you know, there won't be too many videos this week. We're going to save all the best videos for next week in the actual lead up to game week 22. But hopefully this will do for a little bit of content for now. So thank you guys once again so much for watching, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.